Okay, so we did little introductions with my name and Dale. So feel free to save questions until the end as well if you would like. We are recording this session, and I can send out the slide deck and the recording to everyone who's participating afterwards. So don't worry about writing down too many notes. And at the end of all of the slides, we will be able to answer any questions over the chat box as well. So feel free to save any major questions until the end. Okay. So to kick things off, a common question is, what is human-centered design and engineering? And in our department, we have a couple different programs. We have a PhD program, a master's certificate, and an undergraduate bachelor's degree. And our goal is to help students build empathy for the user. We put people first, thinking about research, design, and engineering to help students build design thinking skills, leadership skills, and have a deeper understanding of how people are impacted by technology and how we can put the needs and wants of people first when we're thinking about design and engineering and interacting with technology as a whole. As for the masters, which we're going to talk about today, these are some common things that students can learn in the program. A greater understanding of the concepts and theory of user-centered design, and it can be applied in digital and non-digital settings. You have an opportunity to take a mix of classes in research, design, and engineering. And so students will have a deeper understanding of what user research is, how you conduct different facets of user research, specifically usability studies is a core class that students take early on. Understanding user experiences and interfaces and how to design different experiences, developing complex interactive systems, creating information visualizations, understanding what UX design is and how to create different visualizations, ideation and prototyping. Students have the opportunity to take digital and physical prototyping classes. This is an example of one of our capstone projects, and this group actually won an award for their user research that they did. I'm not going to show the video right now, but I'll send out the link so that you can look at this afterwards if you haven't already seen it. We have a few videos available for our capstone projects. So the capstone class is one of the last courses our master students take, and this is where they get to work with an industry partner. Maybe it's a sponsored project by our department, or it's a project the students sought out on their own to look for a company that they could work with. They may also decide they don't want to work with a company and they have their own idea, and you get to decide what your research question is. You conduct your user research, and you go through the design and engineering phases to build a prototype at the end. And at the end of the quarter, we have a big celebration where everyone shares their projects. Our undergraduate students do this as well. So at the end of spring, we share all of the projects in the department. So it's a great way to recognize the students' hard work and to see what everyone has been working on. So I'll send a link at the end of this where you can find some of these videos to catch up and see how students went about their projects. So we're going to jump right into what kind of jobs. That's usually a big question, is what can I do with this type of degree? Where can I work? What type of roles are our alumni doing after they graduate? So most students are in UX design or research roles, although in every company that can look very different. The industry itself hasn't really decided what a UX designer or researcher is in one option. So it's good to be flexible and really enjoy the interdisciplinary component of our degree, that you gain skills in user research, design, and engineering. Here are a couple other titles: interaction designers, systems analyst, engineer, software engineer, product or project manager, UX program manager. You build a lot of skills to be able to communicate with designers and engineers and researchers, so you have the ability to focus in any of those areas if one is more interesting for you. Here's another list of some common companies our students are working with, whether they're internships or full-time job opportunities. Anthrotech, one of the co-founder of this company, teaches in our department. I've seen Tableau professionals come in and be TAs or part-time lecturers for some of our information visualization courses. Some of our students will do internships with Workday, Primera. It's not just tech where our students are working after they graduate. We're finding that these UX roles are being expanded in lots of different industries, for-profit, not-for-profit work. So it's limitless where you could take this type of degree and how you want to use it. So it's really helpful to maximize your interactions with your peers and alumni and faculty in our department if you're in this degree, so that you're really building your network to understand fully where you can apply these skills, because there's not one right path for every student. Okay, so looking at the master's degree more specifically and how it's designed. So it is a in-person master's, not online. So you do have to be here on campus at the University of Washington in Seattle to attend our courses. They take place in the evening from 6 to 9:50 p.m. So one class, one 4-credit course would be one evening per week. And then often students will meet in another evening or over the weekends to work on projects or homework associated with that class. So this is a great degree for someone who is working full-time or someone who is not working full-time but likes the opportunity to do internships during the day and take their courses in the evening. It's a self-paced program. We often ask questions of whether or not you want to be part-time or full-time enrolled, but that's completely up to the student, and it depends on how many classes you register for. So if a student is working full-time, they're probably registering for only one 4-credit class per quarter. Maybe they're doing that 4-credit class in a speaker series 1-credit course, and the speaker series sessions are available online. Those are the one exception to our classes being available online. A part-time student, a full-time student who might not be working full-time, who may be working part-time or not at all, they could be taking 2 4-credit classes, maybe another 2 or 3-credit research project on top of that, and might be enrolled between 8 and 12 credits for that quarter. If you were a full-time student enrolled in 2 to 3 classes per quarter, you could finish the program in as soon as a year and a half. So that would be winter quarter of your second year in the program. Most students often stay until June, so 2 years, spring quarter of their second year. If you are a part-time student and you're working, that prevents you maybe from taking more than 1 class a quarter, you are more often going to be on a 3-year timeline, maybe 3.5. It just depends. Some students will take more than 1 class a quarter, even if they're working full-time, and they find that manageable as well. Some of the additional research opportunities and projects offered during the day are opportunities to do directed research groups, and maybe you've seen that on our website before. That's a great opportunity for students to participate in research our faculty, PhD students are doing, and they might be working with a company, and they solicit to other students in the department who want to apply, and they can work on research design or engineering aspects of the program. So that's a great way to apply that credit towards your degree. In addition, internship credit can also apply towards the degree, towards your electives. So there's a lot of flexibility to get involved in the department in different ways. So that's one of the fun ways we get to work with you in helping to decide what your interests are and what other projects you can do to amplify and emphasize all the resources in the program. Students apply in January. You've probably seen our upcoming deadline is January 16th, 2018. And students will find out in March and then you enroll in classes and start in the program in autumn quarter. And here at UW at the University of Washington, we start our classes a little late in September. So when you find out in March, it's a long summer until you get to start classes in the fall, but we give you a lot of information so that you're prepared. And so there's a lot of things you can do in the summer to feel ready for the fall quarter. The whole program is 48 total credits. So your core requirements are almost half of your degree. So that's 22 credits that you're required to take. That includes your foundational user-centered design courses, usability studies, theory. We do also a core class that talks about design projects in the corporate setting or in a business organization. And then, of course, your capstone course, which also has a capstone planning class that you take right before it. You are required to also take one 4-credit class in each area, research, design, and engineering. So you get to try out all 3. But then you get 14 credits up to you of how you want to spend that time, whether you want to focus specifically in research, design, or engineering, or you could spread the classes over all 3. Most students pick a specific track, and that's usually what we recommend so that you're more prepared for a specific position when you leave the program. So in that elective category, that's where you can take the directed research group credit, your internship credits. You also can take up to 2 electives outside of our department. So some students will look at communications courses, computer science, information school classes. So lots of opportunities to focus in a specific area and take enough electives so that you feel like you've covered a wide base of skills before you leave the program. Currently, our tuition is at $773 per credit. We are a fee-based program, so what that means is you pay for each individual credit. You may be used to an undergraduate program where you get a full-time tuition rate if you register for a certain amount, but we don't have that option in this program. So all that means is if one quarter you register for one 4-credit class, you pay for those 4 credits. The next quarter, if you take on 2 classes, then you would pay for 8 credits. So it could vary quarter to quarter. And I also see a question about visa. So for international students, you would be required to register for 10 credits every quarter. And so you are considered a full-time student. Okay, so some admission requirements. This is good information if you're thinking about applying this year. It is required that you have a bachelor's degree from a 4-year accredited institution. So that fits any bachelor's degree from the US. In a location where you may have received a 3-year bachelor's degree, such as India, you would be expected to do at least 1 more year of study to make up for 4 years. If you have questions about that, please follow up with us individually, and we're happy to answer that over email to make sure if you meet the requirement, because that can be a big question. The UW Graduate School does require that you have a 3.0 minimum GPA. So also, if you're worried about that GPA requirement, please contact us, because there is a little bit of wiggle room, but we like to see that everyone meets that 3.0 requirement to increase your chances of getting into the program, since we are a competitive program. For those that have international transcripts from a country where the native language is not in English, you would be required to submit a TOEFL score, an English language proficiency score. If you attended a school where everything was taught in English, but it was located in a country where English is not the first language, please follow up with us, because we would like to double check with you that there is a notation on your transcript that says everything was taught in English. So that can waive the TOEFL requirement, but we need to make sure that there's documentation showing that every course was completed in English. And for good news, the GRE is not required, so you can celebrate that you don't need to take the GRE. We found that the GRE scores and just using transcripts with GPAs were not a good indicator of who would be successful in our program. So we moved to a more holistic review where we really spend time digging into the personal statement and students' resumes in order to make a more holistic decision about who is a good fit in this program. So deadline to apply is January 16th. Here's a list of what's required in the application. It has a note about the UCD certificate. So our user-centered design certificate, which is also a program that starts in fall. This is a part-time program, so it's not designed for international students who need a F1 visa. It's a great option if you're local to Seattle and you've had at least 2 years of full-time work experience and hopefully industry experience. This could be a great option to start the program part-time. And then if you decide later on you want to apply to the master's, you could transfer those credits into the master's degree. And that's something we could talk about at a later time. But if you're not ready to apply to the master's degree right now, you might be able to wait and apply in the summer for our certificate and still be able to start your HCDE classes in the fall. And again, I'll send this information out. And this is also located on our website. So you'll have lots of information to follow up about that. Here's some information about our admissions. We admitted about 100 students this fall, and we do have a competitive admissions process. So it's about a 25% acceptance rate. But as I said about the holistic review, I'd like to note that because we're not using transcripts and GRE scores as just an automatic cutoff, it's competitive in a way that is how you are a good fit for the program. So you want to think about your personal statement as your top priority for your application. This is your chance to explain to us what your passions and interests are in HCDE, in UX design, research, or engineering. It's your chance to explain to us what you want to do with the master's and where it will take you. It's also your opportunity to share any personal stories or experiences that aren't conveyed in your resume, in your transcripts, or your portfolio. So we ask that you make meaningful connections in your personal statement. We are human-centered design and engineering. So we like to see that human side and see that passion and interest in your personal statement of why you're applying to this program. And the last line about do your homework, that just shows you that we have a lot of videos and a lot of information on our website. So make sure you spend some time looking through that thoroughly so that you feel prepared, that you really understand what our program is and what you hope to gain out of it. Another note, I'm just going to go back to this list. The optional portfolio, I want to point out, is truly an optional requirement. So no one is harmed for not providing a portfolio. If you have a background, say in design, where it would make sense that you would have a portfolio to demonstrate what you've done in your career, then that's a good idea to provide a portfolio in your application. If you have a background in engineering or social science areas where you wouldn't have a portfolio, we wouldn't expect to see one, and we wouldn't want you to make one just for the application. So don't feel pressure to make one if your academic or work experience doesn't fall in line with an industry that would have a portfolio. But if you do have a background in design or in another area where you would have a portfolio, it would make sense for you to include it. It's optional, partially because our faculty may or may not look at it. So there's no requirement that even if you provide it, that we will see the content in it. But feel free to add a link to your resume. You could also upload PDF images of your portfolio within the application where you can upload documents. But I just want to stress that it's not a secret requirement, and for anyone who wouldn't have a portfolio, please don't feel pressured to make one just for this application. And if you're concerned about that or have other questions, feel free to follow up with us individually. Okay. I covered this just a little bit. So decisions are sent March 15th, and that will come out to the email you provided in your application. So that means we're reviewing applications between January 16th and March 15th. We do not start reviewing applications early, so there's no rush to submit it before the deadline. However, I wouldn't wait till the last second to submit your application to make sure you don't have any technical issues or hiccups along the way. So I add this note about the HCDE MS FAQs to let you know that between January 15th and March 15th, we are reviewing applications, we're working with our current students, so we have limited availability to meet with prospective students. So rely on those FAQs and the materials on our website. And then once you receive your decision, you'll receive additional steps on information you need to know and how we'll contact you if you are admitted. If you are not accepted, we are unable to provide personalized feedback about your application. So please do not contact us to find out more information about why you were not accepted. If you are planning to reapply, that would be a great conversation for us to have and talk about ways you might want to improve before the next application cycle. And we're happy to do that in the spring and over summer and next autumn too. Okay, so that was most of the information about how to apply and kind of a brief overview of what the program was. We still have a half an hour left to answer questions. If you have other questions after 1 o'clock, feel free to email us. Dale will answer the hcdegrad@uw.edu email. So he's really helpful in giving you resources and sharing information about the application and the program. You may also send me an email too if you have specific questions. And we're happy to help out in any way that we can. So thank you, and feel free to use the chat box to give us any questions, and we're happy to answer them right now. Okay, so I was looking through a couple of the questions and I saw some about HCI, MHCI plus D, and our program, HCDE. So happy to talk a little bit about the two programs. So at the University of Washington, the HCI plus D program is an interdisciplinary master's within the UW Graduate School. And they are made up of their core classes and classes in different departments, one of which is classes in our department. Our program is within our own Department of Human-Centered Design and Engineering. So like I said, we had a PhD program, certificate, and an undergraduate program. So for content that you learn within both programs and job outcomes, they are very similar. And it's mostly a difference between your master's experience. So if you are working full-time or you like the idea that you can take evening courses, apply internship credit, work on directed research groups, be involved in the department in different ways, our program could be a good fit for you. Also, if you like the self-paced aspect, being able to take your time and decide when you want to finish, the HCI program can be a good fit if you are really interested in that full day, 11-month program. So you want to work nonstop, 60 hours a week on your projects, on your coursework, and you want to be here on campus all day and finish quickly in just under a year. The HCI program can be a good fit. They also are a very small cohort model, so they have only about 34 students this year, where we have 100 students that came in this fall, and at one time we have about 250 students within our certificate and master's program. So I would think more broadly about what type of master's experience you want to help decide which program could be the best for you. Instead of worrying about job outcomes, because we are very similar in the content and where students are going after they graduate. Monday evening on the 20th at 6 p.m., we are doing a joint information session that's live on campus. It's not recorded and not streamed online. So if you're in the area and you're interested to hear from both programs, HCI plus D and HCDE, I encourage you to come and listen to both of us, and we'll talk about both programs at the same time. On their website, they also have this great chart, which I can email out to folks too. I'll make a note that compares our programs just right on the website back to back. So that gives you some more information too. Another question I noticed was master's to PhD. So the master's program is a professional master's, meaning you're building skills that you can use in the workplace. It's designed for professionals who want to use these skills in a job setting. And the PhD program is a typical academic program where you would conduct your own research. You're working in a lab as a research assistant. You might be also teaching in our courses. You're working closely with a faculty member. So it's a much bigger commitment, and it would be a great opportunity for someone who's very much interested in research. So some students do the master's and then move on to the PhD. It definitely happens, and it's possible. But because our master's program is a professional program and you're not conducting your own research, they are a bit different. So it's not a common practice that most students will move on to the PhD. But if that's what you're thinking, that could be a great way to start into the program and to test the waters and see how you like everything. The PhD deadline is coming up in December. So you could also apply to both the PhD and the master's program. As a PhD student, you have access to take our master's classes as electives. So there's lots of different ways to get involved with both the PhD and the master's program, depending what you're looking for. They look very different. So we're happy to talk with you about that too. We do have a PhD advisor who's available for appointments, and her contact information is on our website. Her name is Pat Riley. Happy to connect you with her as well. Another question was about whether or not you can attend classes to see what it's like. And since our courses are very collaborative, group-based, very project-heavy, presentation-heavy, it's not easy for prospective students to just sit in and observe the classroom. So we don't offer that to prospective students. It can be more disruptive than a way for you to just see how things are going, because most of our classes are not structured as a lecture style. You can see our speaker series videos on our website. And if you'd like to come in for an appointment, we could try to set up an appointment for you to meet with a current student. If you have specific questions about the student experience, and that's something you should follow up with us about, and we're happy to set that up in place of you attending a course. Okay, I love how these questions are coming through. So one of them was about U.S. transcripts fulfilling the TOEFL English language proficiency requirement. And yes, if you have an undergrad bachelor's degree in the U.S., you do not need to submit a TOEFL score. So you would leave that blank in the application. For if you completed a UW undergrad degree in 3 years, that's okay, because you probably went through the program really quickly, or you had transfer credit coming in, so that's fine. A US degree would be considered 4 years. And the other question about who would I recommend to write the recommendation letter, that's a good question. So because we are a professional program, there's no preference or requirement that your recommenders are academic. It's you can pull from professionals that you've worked with in the workplace, supervisors, colleagues, people you have volunteered with, of course, faculty members from academic setting. You just want to make sure it's someone from a professional relationship. And it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from our field. I always recommend that students find recommenders who just know them well, who can speak to their strengths and skill sets, and can share valuable information about how you have performed in a professional setting. Good tips for applicants is that they would prep their recommenders and provide them information about the program you're applying to. So hopefully you know them well enough that they have a good idea of what the program is like and why you are applying. So the more information they can give us, the better. In the application itself, you provide their contact information, and then they are sent a survey. So they can check boxes and leave comments. They can also upload a letter if they would like to. Of course, the more information they provide, the better, and we'd always recommend that. But it's up to them, and it really is helpful for the applicant because you are not coordinating these letter of references on your own. Instead, you just provide the contact information and they are sent the information from the application. So it makes it a little bit smoother process. How often do HCDE and HCI plus D students interact with each other? A fair amount, because some of the HCI students will be in our classes. There's opportunities to work together in student groups, projects you may want to do outside of the curriculum in our program. Some students who take classes outside of our department may be taking them also with other HCI students. Some students would say our program is a little more user research focused and HCI is a little bit more design focused in how we design our curriculum. I think where we stand out compared to other programs on a national front is that we are more informed about user research, building empathy for the user, and putting user research as a forefront of how we do design. Other programs might be more focused on design, but we really emphasize the user research component. So because we have a mix of students that are full-time and part-time, sometimes coordinating schedules for capstone projects or other projects and course classes can be difficult. But when it comes to capstone, they work really hard to ask that question and have students coordinate their schedules first to help decide who is a good group. So that's obviously a well-known part of our program, that can be a common sticking point for students, is figuring out how can we work together, how can we formulate our groups. So those are conversations that students are having. So it tends to be a really easy thing to figure out. But thank you, that's a good question. How technical is the curriculum? So this is a great STEM program. It qualifies as a STEM program. So if you are on a student visa, it gives you that 24-month extension for OPT. But it is a great STEM program for non-STEM students. So if you have a background in engineering, you will be much more comfortable with the engineering side of our coursework. But hopefully you're more interested in the design and user research part, and that's where you want to focus your time and learn something new. For those who have a design or research background and feel a little more intimidated by the engineering component, we do have introductory to programming courses. So if you're brand new and you've never done any sort of programming, you don't know what JavaScript is or Python, we definitely have intro courses to help students build their skills. So that's what's really helpful about our program, is in each area, research, design, and engineering, you will get to decide where your level is. And you can skip some of the intro classes or start at some of the intro classes depending where your skill set is. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you want to take and how you satisfy those requirements, which I think helps students focus on the skills they really need and what they want to get out of the program. So faculty advisors is a really common question, very common for most graduate programs. Students are not assigned a faculty advisor in the master's degree. You will interact with many different faculty members that are full-time on in our department, but you also will interact with part-time lecturers who are professionals from the field coming here to teach some of our classes. And they'll teach some of our special topics courses. That's a way for us to stay up to date and current and talking about different courses that are important to students right now. For instance, we're offering next quarter an inclusive design course that talks about accessibility, designing for all, thinking about different technology barriers for certain people with special needs. We also have a course in the spring focused on voice and interaction design. We're also offering a video communication class. We just have different special topics courses running all year so that students can not only focus on different skill sets, but also focus on different special topics that they might be interested in and what they want to work in the field. The faculty can be helpful in lots of different ways because you can reach out to them if you're interested in the research that they do. You can take their classes, but you are not assigned a faculty advisor. So you don't have to worry about applying to a specific faculty member. For your capstone project, you could do a project that is associated to some of the research or academic work our department is doing. But you could be more likely working with an industry partner and people working in that company at that time, more so than directly interacting with our faculty. Thank you, everybody, for submitting so many questions, and thank you to Dale for rapidly trying to answer questions in the chat box. As I've noticed them, I've tried to answer them on the video. Feel free to follow up with us if we didn't answer something. We're happy to answer anything after this session, but we want to try to hit as many questions as we can. So if you asked one earlier that we missed, feel free to send it now, and we have a couple more minutes left to try to answer some questions before this is over. So a question about improving your chances to get into the program. Because there isn't one degree that's preferred or academic background preferred to get into the program, there isn't one skill set you could learn that would necessarily help your chances of getting in. What helps your chances is if you are practicing some of the skills, the programming skills or design software skills or research on your own by going to meetup groups, getting involved with UXPA or other professional organizations that might have professionals working on different projects, or by doing things online through Coursera or the Linda videos. That will help you understand why you're really interested in UX and what you want to do with this type of program. And then that comes out in your personal statement of why you're really interested in this work and what you hope to gain out of it. So it can strengthen your application by giving you more context and understanding if you're very green and new to the field, so that you have a better understanding of where you fit in this world and what you want to do with it. So I highly recommend getting involved, doing some work on your own, trying to engage on different projects, because that will help you articulate what your passion and interests are in this type of work. Another question about scheduling in-person meeting. Yes, we can meet one-on-one. My schedule is a little bit booked, but you can schedule an appointment online through our Acuity is our online scheduling system. So it may not be until the middle or late December, but happy to meet with students if they want to follow up one-on-one. We could do in-person or phone appointments too. So if you're unable to find that link, just send us an email and we will send that out to you. So question about the UCD certificate transferring. We have a lot of students who apply with credit from the User-Centered Design certificate during the program or years later. So there's no requirement or timeline or deadline of when you can apply to the master's and transfer the credit over. So I would say to you, apply whenever you are ready to do the program, and the credit will still be accepted and transferable. So for students doing a part-time program in the evening, so you probably would only do 4 credits, which is 1 course per week. So 1 evening per week, you'd be here on campus in class, and you may come to campus again another evening or the weekends to work with your group mates on a project. Is it common for UW students to find full-time internships? Yes. Some students even apply for full-time jobs and will find the job that they wanted while they're still in the program before they graduate. A lot of people are working. We have a very active social media group between peers or current students and alumni who are often sharing information about job postings, internship opportunities. So most students will start an internship the summer of the first year they're in the program because they're not taking any courses in the evening and they're just working full-time doing an internship. Others will be looking for full-time work. So it's very common to do an internship in the summer, but students may find it that they'll do an internship and they continue doing the work through the fall or the winter, or maybe it turns into a full-time offer. That would be the most common, is to start your internship in the summer, but then maybe continue working in your second year. Question about the HCDE master's preparing for a potential PhD. It depends on what you were to take in the program. So if that's a goal of yours to move on from the master's to a PhD program, there are certain classes or research projects we would recommend that you take while you're in the program to prepare you more for that academic research degree. So that's something we would want to talk about if that's a goal of yours. And as the academic advisor in the department, I meet with current students all the time to talk about these opportunities and different ways they can customize their degree to fit their goals. So that's something we could map out together and think about how you would better prepare yourself to conduct your own research. So Joe's question, I think I'm following. I'm sorry if I'm not answering your question correctly. So for international students, if you're on a new I-20, a new visa, you have to be enrolled 3 quarters consecutively full-time. So you're not eligible to do CPT until your first summer in the program, typically. So, but you have more time during the day because you're not working. So that means you can take advantage of the directed research groups, other classes that might be earlier, or sections that are earlier in the day. Definitely 10 credits in the program is very full and you will be very busy. So it's not like you're going to have a ton of free time during the day. So there's lots of different opportunities if you want to try to engage in coursework a little bit earlier than 6 p.m., but most students are pretty busy. They're also updating and creating portfolios, working on their resume, LinkedIn. You'll have plenty to do before you start an internship, and also the process of searching for an internship can take time. We also have a lot of workshops on campus where we talk about career events, resume review, skill shares that are led by our student association. So they'll run skill shares in research, design, and engineering. We do an internship workshop where you hear from current students who did internships over the previous summer. So don't worry about how to fill your time before CPT is eligible, because we'll have lots to do to help you prepare for finding that first internship. Amy's question about the focus on the program, whether it's more qualitative or quantitative, it's a total mix. You can take a qualitative research class and a experimental methods quantitative research course. Qualitative tends to be a very just common practice of this type of UX work, but you have an opportunity to do both. For questions about CPT, I always defer to our International Student Services office about eligibility, because it can be very different for each person. And our International Student Services office is the group that will stay up to date on the policies. So I can give very general information about when students use CPT, which is generally their first summer, but I never advise students specifically on CPT because I'm not the best person to answer those questions. If you're a green card holder, would you be considered an international student? I actually just met with another prospective student that had that question, and we called the UW Graduate School, and you can still apply as an international applicant, but you will not be requesting a student international visa from the University of Washington. So you still apply as an international student if you are a green card holder, but you are not requesting an F1 visa or an I-20 from the school, so you can leave all of that blank. So you will not be under the same requirements as an international student who is on an F1 visa, but it would probably make sense that you're still applying as an international applicant. Okay, so another question. Professionals mixed with new, more green professionals in our program. So yeah, that can be a constant challenge of being able to provide the right skills for professionals who already have industry experience and those that are brand new. So that gives you more customization and more choices in the electives that you take. So those that are more new in a certain area can take more introductory courses and others can take more advanced courses. Keep in mind that a lot of students who have industry experience are still wanting to build skills in a new area that they haven't worked in, or this is the first time they're really interacting with UX as an academic framework. So everyone's still learning something new and focusing on design from a different perspective that they maybe haven't done yet. And so you shouldn't be intimidated if you are part of the group that's more new to the program, because you'll find there's a lot to learn right away, and it sometimes can be a little overwhelming, but you start to get the hang of things and you realize that the peers in your classes who have more experience can be a great resource for you to help you navigate how to get more involved in the field. So I would look at that as an advantage, that you get to interact with so many different people with so many different experiences, because that's what helps keep our program very diverse and keeps the interdisciplinary component of our degree in practice. So it's a really important aspect of why we structure the program the way it is. Dina, I would ask that you follow up with us via email if you're confused about the requirement. That would be a good one for us to have a conversation about. Okay, one final question, and then that's all the time we have for today. Anyone have one last one for us? Okay. For the recommendation, will you consider the English proficiency of my recommendation letters as an important factor? So your recommendation letter is answered by non-native speakers. That's totally fine. That definitely does not have an impact in your eligibility to be admitted into this program. It's best to just pick recommenders who know you well and can really share that type of experience. If they are concerned with their English writing skills, hopefully they can reach out to someone that maybe could help if you're worried about the information not being conveyed correctly to our faculty committee. But in general, that information won't impact a student's English proficiency eligibility or look poorly on you in any way. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would just worry that if you're picking a recommender who is not a native English speaker and doesn't consistently write in English, that maybe you find someone that can help them translate their letter or making sure it conveys the right information, just so that you don't miss out on a letter that would have provided very valuable information for us to know more about you as an applicant. Okay, thank you so much for everyone who attended this session. I'm really glad we were able to share some information about the program and give you a chance to ask some questions. Feel free to follow up if anything was confusing or you need more clarification after today. Happy to answer those. So you can always send us an email, or if you find that online link on our website, You can always schedule a phone, Skype, or in-person appointment with me individually. After this session, I'll send out the recording, and I also will send out the slide deck so you have this to refer to. So hopefully that answers most of your questions. But as always, we're here to help. So thank you so much, and everyone, have a great day.